Welcome back. Let's briefly talk about loops in Python. Looping means being able to repeat the execution of code block more than once, according to the loop parameter we are given. There are different loop constructs which serve different purposes, and Python has distilled all of them down to just two, which you can use to achieve everything you need. There are for loop and while loop statement. So we're going to start by looking at for loop first. So we use a for keyword. We create a variable, for example, x, and we use in keyword. And the next value would be which we want to use for iteration. So for example, if I define something like hello variable, and we set that value to hello, now we have 5 characters in hello. So this is going to iterate over string of HELLO. So here I'll type hello, use colon, and when you press return or enter, you will see the white spaces here. So right now we are in for loop block. Now I'm just simply going to print x. So I'll type print x. Now let's save the file and I'm going to run it. Now you can see it's printing HELLO. Now what's going on here? So when the for loop comes and looks inside this variable, it finds this value. It checks for the first character and saves that character value into variable x and pass that to our code block. Now here we're accessing x and we are printing it. Simply, it is going to loop HELLO, and whatever the value that it receives, it will save that in x, and in the code block, we are simply printing x. This is why we get to see HELLO. So if I change that to hello world, save it, and let's run this code. Now this time we see we have HELLO. We also have a space, because when the compiler or interpreter goes here, it sees no value and it stores that empty value into x, and then it gets printed. Now loops can run on dictionaries, sets, lists. Now I know we haven't talked about these, we will talk about these in the course, but for now just see how you define a loop, because I'm going to give you some exercises on loops. So yeah, now this is a loop. You go and check the value, iterate over, saves the value coming from every single character from string, and then put it in this x, and then we are printing it here. Now we're going to change some values here. Instead of this, I'm going to define a list. Don't worry, we'll talk about lists in details down the road, but I'll just say create a list of fruits. And the first fruit I defined here would goes into string. I'll say apple, banana, orange. Okay. Now we have 3 values in list. I'm going to use fruits here. Now if I save it, if I run it, this time you'll see apple, banana, and orange. This time it's not looking for every single character. Instead, it's looking for a value in a list. This is a behavior when you loop through on a list. I get it, we haven't talked about it yet, but we will. Let's take a look at while loop briefly. So what while loop does, it has a condition, and as long as that condition is true, it can execute the set of statements. For example, I create a value I equal to 1, and I'll say while, which is a keyword to start a while loop. I'll say if I is less than, let's just say 10. Now we're in a code block of while loop. Whatever we type here, any statement that we type here, they will be executed over and over until I is less than 10. So if I say print, let's just say I, now while loop is going to iterate infinitely, because I is never going to change, and this condition is always going to be true, and we're gonna keep printing I. So that's very dangerous. So to fix that problem, every time we loop through, I want to add 1 to I. So we can say I plus equal to 1. Okay, now if you want to use a long way of doing this, so you can say equal to I plus 1. That's the same thing, but I'm using this short way of doing this, 1. Okay, let's save this now, and I'm going to actually comment this out. Let's save the file, and I'm going to run it. Now you can see we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times it was printed. So I was already 1, and when it came first time, it became 2, 3, and it looped through till I was less than 10. Now if I can say less than equal to 10, and I run the code, this time we'll see 10 as well, because it's going to keep going until this is true. And even though the I becomes 10, it's going to still run because it's equal to 10. Now when it becomes 11, it is not going to run, and it's going to break out from the while loop. So that was a basic introduction to for loop and while loop. We'll have a lot of exercises for for loop and while loop, so you get more comfortable using while loops and for loop.